All right, you're looking live at Generation and Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks. I'm the host, DJ. I tell you what, and we're back with another one. I'm joined by my co-host, my dad, Cowboy Joe 64, aka Capricorn One, and we're back with another one. Um, it's day two, day three, really, since we heard about Schottenheimer, Schotty maybe getting a job or maybe not, and so we're gonna just talk to you all a little bit about what our thoughts are about that. And I'm gonna let this intro roll, and we'll jump right into it. The Generation Cowboys and Sports Talk. My dad, my partner, my co-host, Cowboy Joe 64.
I am your father.
Just to get the Cowboys 2 good games to hopefully understand that they need to go receiver and go high with this next pick.
Yeah, yeah, that's really what this is gonna be about. All right, there's that. You wanna say what's up to the people and kind of reflect on what the news is that we've been getting today and yesterday.
So what's up, people? Appreciate you guys joining our show. We're still waiting to, I guess, to hear the update from the at this point like a 2 day meeting they're having with Schottenheimer. Still haven't heard anything. Some rumors are going around that he's got the position. Then some rumors are going around that he's still being interviewed for offensive coordinator, and might be some other coaches trying to sneak in the back door. So that's kind of the latest. So we kind of at a standstill. What are you hearing? What are you saying?
I'm hearing a little bit of everything. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that. I'm also hearing that that they could possibly be interviewing him for uh that he's going to be a part of the staff, and that they're interviewing him for other head coach candidates because he's going to be on their staff. Like, he would be the OC. Like, he would be the OC if Kellen were to come in. Hearing that Pete Carroll might sneak through the door, but I'm also hearing Pete Carroll for the Raiders too, if I'm not mistaken. And so, um, it really just looks like really what's happened, man, is the Joneses, they didn't have their ducks in a row again. I mean, really, what you wanted to see was you wanted to see the Joneses turn over a new leaf, and you wanted to see them, actually go out and quote unquote interview real hiring candidates. You wanted to see them replace Mike McCarthy with something better. Um, and you wanted to see them come up with a new philosophy as their approach on how they run the organization. None of those things happened, and I think that we're seeing more of the same. As you know, we're hearing now that these coaches are coming out and saying that, hey, they would have took the job, the head coach's job of Dallas Cowboys, if they were approached with the job. Um, just like Derrick Henry said, he would have jumped on being a Cowboy if he was approached. Uh, but he wasn't even approached. They didn't even pick up the phone and call a guy. Same thing with Belichick. Belichick said he would have loved to be. He would have jumped on it. Didn't even call the guy. Ben Johnson didn't even call the guy. Aaron Glenn didn't even call the guy. Mike Vrabel didn't even call the guy. Harbaugh last year didn't even call the guy. So, you know, and then they're doing Schottenheimer. He's been here. We all know who Schottenheimer is. We all know who his dad is. Um, we shared last a couple weeks ago. We shared a few days ago, Schottenheimer's resume. It's horrible.
Can you pull that
Probably
graphic back up?
yeah. It's
Can
one of
you
the worst
overlay it
that
on this?
I can, and I will. Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad, and so with that, we all knew that they were gonna do the Kellen Moore thing. They did that, and it's just fitting that for Cowboy fans, we gotta watch an NFC Championship with Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, our two rival teams. Uh, a lot of the players that played for the Cowboys, further pushing the narrative that if you want to win a championship, all you have to do is leave Dallas, and you'll get that. Just like a lot of the other players, they do. They leave here and they end up in championships. It's just really, you know, it's you want to be positive, but it's really hard to be positive when there is nothing positive. So Jerry is doing Jerry things. Micah still doesn't have a contract, and then Micah is going on record saying that he would like to get his contract done now. He's not trying to break the bank, and that he wants to get it done now so that the Cowboys can use the money that they would get from that in free agency. And
has he been on his podcast lately?
I haven't checked it out because I can't.
They probably telling him that they're probably asking him to kind of lay low.
I mean, but again, that just goes back to like, so what? What do they want? What are they asking him to lay low for? They're asking him to lay low so he could be a part of the quote unquote the business, or the quote unquote change the culture, or lay low because we don't want you to continue to pulling the veil back, or lay low because this is a top secret agent thing and you gotta lay low. It's just like, no, just continue to be yourself, Micah. Just, these are obvious things that don't make sense to reasonable human beings that the Cowboys are doing, that is the reason for their consistent failure. And you would like to see them change these things. And for the love of God, we can't figure out why they're doing these things. That's why I named the title of this show, What Jerry is Really Doing. Because no one can figure it out, because nothing makes sense at all if you're trying to win a championship. It just...
So what I've been saying since we've been doing our show, and I've been saying this for years, I think we try to make it like a big to do, or I don't want to say conspiracy. We're making more out of it than it should be. What I keep saying is, what we need to understand is that part of their problem is they really don't know what they're doing. It's like you hire a contractor, you hire a builder to build a house. So you got great builders, they know what they're doing. They're going to just put a great product and build a great house. These guys, they're in the home building business, but they're not good at it. They don't put out a good product. And the reason they don't is because a lot of the stuff that it takes to be a good franchise, they just don't do those things. They don't, and it should be more and more obvious to people when we keep saying this, is that they don't know what they're doing. They don't have, their salary cap. They're just not good at managing the cap. Other teams are. The Eagles, the 49ers, the Bills, the Chiefs. They have good cap people. They don't know how to do their cap. And so when Mike McCarthy caught them off guard, they assumed that they were just going to be able to, hold Mike McCarthy over a fish barrel, and he was going to take whatever they offered him. But as I said on one of our other shows, he's a Pittsburgh guy. His folks are union people. They're firefighters. They're police officers. And so he's made a lot of money. And I absolutely predicted that when they start trying to play that type of silly hardball with him, he was just going to take his ball and go home. That's what he did. So it sounds like that kind of caught them off guard. Now, I'm just a YouTube guy doing content. I could have predicted that back in November, what he might do, but apparently they were not prepared for it. So there again, it just goes to show you they don't really have a sound way to do things. So we're looking at Schottenheimer's. It's almost like a jacket. You know how people have a criminal record.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at his stops across the league. So let's kind of walk the people through what you're looking at there. So this is kind of his background and where he's been and what he's actually done.
So, okay, so Schottenheimer, with Washington in 2001, he was a quarterback coach. They had the 28th ranked offense. With San Diego Chargers from 2002 to 2005. He was the quarterbacks coach, and these are the Drew Brees years. This is the only years of Drew Brees' career where he didn't look Hall of Fame level. Um, the New York Jets, from 2006 to 2011, he was the offensive coordinator, and he wasted some of the NFL's best defenses with Mark Sanchez. We all know who Mark Sanchez is. St. Louis Rams from 2012 to 2014. He was the offensive coordinator, and he had the 25th, the 21st, and the 21st ranked offense.
So we probably want to do kind of go back a little bit, just kind of take a look at some of these. Go all the way back up. So what I'm trying to do, 2001. This is so far back. Okay. So he was a quarterback coach for Drew Brees. I'm trying to remember who the head coach was for some of these teams. That 2002, 2005, that might have been his dad coaching that team. The Jets, I don't know who that was. That might have been, was it Rex Ryan? So we got to try to put some coaches with these teams.
I think you're right so far, though. That was Marty Schottenheimer's team. I think.
Now,
unless
the Rams, he was the offensive coordinator 2012 to 2014.
Yeah.
So probably what we'll do with this list, it'll take a little research. We probably just want to commit some of the head coaches to these teams, because some of these, just to be fair, he's the coordinator. We got the head coach. Georgia, I didn't even know he went back to college. He went the college route.
Yeah. And he got Mark Rich fired.
Okay, 85th offense. Then the Colts, quarterbacks coach. Again, if you're the quarterbacks coach, I don't know if that should be a mark. Now, the Seattle is probably the most recent thing we're going to look at, because I remember him being the Seattle offensive coordinator. We played them in a playoff game at AT&T. I remember that game vividly, and they struggled moving the ball. We won the game because they had no offense. Russell was out there just looking like he's kind of looking now, to be honest. So they struggled throughout that game, and we actually won the game, but it wasn't an impressive win because their team, including their offense, it wasn't impressive.
That was the first. Was that, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first playoff game that Dak and Zeke won.
The first one they won?
Yeah.
You might be right. What about 20s? Because 2016 was their rookie year. They played big. In 2017, they didn't make the playoffs, right?
Yeah. So who did they play that rookie year?
In the playoffs, they played Green Bay. They lost to Green Bay in the first round. They was the number one seed, and they lost to Green Bay.
Oh yeah, that's the Mike McCarthy game. That's the catch on the sideline, Byron Jones.
Yeah. So that was their first playoff game, and they lost. So then they came back, and they played I think in 2017 they played the Rams. Remember that Rams game when the running back they ran for like 200 some yards.
Yeah, misdirection, Sean McVay. We couldn't even keep up with the running back.
But getting back to Shotty, so he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars, passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So again, to be fair, if you're the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, I don't know. You got to look at who was actually calling the plays there. At 2018-2020 is definitely a good look. But the thing about it is, with Brian Schottenheimer, what we've been hearing, and I heard it again today, is that throughout the season, the last 2 years, he was making suggestions to McCarthy about kind of moving the offense forward. He was taking plays from other teams. And my understanding is McCarthy just blew him off. He didn't really want to put his suggestions in. The players were behind these suggestions. And so he wasn't really, giving Schottenheimer a chance to kind of have an impact on the offense. McCarthy was just like stubborn. I'm running this, and we're doing what we do, what I want to do. So it's almost like McCarthy being stubborn may have cost himself, the job as a coach here. And obviously the injuries had a huge part in what happened this year, to be fair with McCarthy. But, my thing with Schottenheimer is this. He seems like he has a possibility of somebody that's going to, take some innovative things and try to do those. If he gets this job, and I say if because we don't even know if he's going to get the job at this point where it's dragging out. But if he thinks that he's going to get this job and just kind of go in there and be bland and be like this old school chuck and duck, and we're not going to do a lot of stuff to get the offense moving, then he won't be around for long. And the Joneses, they're not gonna roll with him for 3 or 4 years. Certainly not 5. So he's gonna have to come in and do something pretty quick, I think.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, and I said this about Shotty, and I'll say this.
You can take that graphic down.
It kind of goes back to, I guess I could say this about Shotty, and I won't say it about Kellen. But what I'm gonna say is that with Shotty, at least my thought is that, like you said, because it goes into everything you just said about how Dak and CD, and they were like trying to give McCarthy some different ways to take the offense, and Schottenheimer was taking plays from other teams and doing things like that. See, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to hear. But see, once we hear that Dak and CD and Schottenheimer was trying to do that, and McCarthy wouldn't let it go, then it just says black and white. It says that McCarthy did not want the team to grow. They didn't want the team to grow. The reason why we didn't, and it was the same. It's easily believable because last year, this was the same rumor that went out, was that the first 4 or 5 games was McCarthy's plan, and after the bye, this was Dak and the rest of the team's plan. And that's when they started moving the ball, and that's when Dak was calling plays, and that's when they became the number 1 offense, and CD became all pro, and Dak was MVP voting, all of that. So what I think is, I don't want us to overreact, because I think that I'm gonna live and die with the thought and with the hope that if Schottenheimer is the offensive coordinator or the head coach, that means that we're going to have that offense that was scoring 32 points a game last year. Not last year, but year before last. That's the offense that we're going to have when nobody could guard CD.
I heard today that he likes to use motion. McCarthy doesn't.
We've heard that before, though. So we gotta. So, but that's my hope, and that's what I think is really going to happen. I think that really what's going to happen is that the offense is going to be a new age offense. It's going to be some of what we have previously that works. Schottenheimer is probably going to go in and take everything that works and keep it, and everything that didn't work and throw it out. And so, with that, Dak is going to have more control over the offense. Why? I like that because Dak knows what he's capable of. Dak is not going to call himself, and Schottenheimer is not going to call Dak a naked boot. I mean, that's just not what Dak. That's just not where he's at anymore. So I feel like it's going to be catered to Dak. I feel like it's going to be catered to the offense, and I feel like it'll be good. Now, my problem is, I think that, like in previous years, no matter how good the roster is, and no matter how good the players are, no matter how good the offense is, if the general manager is not running the team properly or building the team properly, none of that will matter. You would never get over the hump. And I feel like so that's where the rubber meets the road at with me. Really, I could care less about if Schottenheimer and Dak if Schottenheimer is the head coach and who's calling the plays and all of that, because they're gonna try to do what's best. But what I do care about is who's gonna be our starting O-line, who is gonna be our running back, who is gonna be CD's second receiver, who is gonna be on our defense, who are we gonna get in free agency. That's what I care about.
So I think that on that front, I think that's gonna kind of all play out. It's gonna all kind of come together. We got the draft, and so I think probably what they're doing too, whoever they're interviewing for the head coach, that's probably what's dragging it out, because what these folks are doing that are interviewing, it's almost like the rabbit got the gun. probably what's happening is these coaches are asking them a bunch of questions, and they're having to interview Jerry and Steven and McClay, and they're probably like having to work through so many things because as I said earlier, it's not a well-run organization, and so a lot of people have questions about what they're doing, what the team is going to look like. What's their philosophy? I'm sure they're being asked about the salary cap. They're being asked about free agency because none of these coaches is going to take this job. They're not going to just come in because when you're a head coach, I mean, your record follows you. They're going to put your record on your tombstone. So they probably running into this thing where the coaches are interviewing them saying, if I take this job, here, let's look at what we're going to be doing in these other areas, like what you're talking about. So that has to be part of it. That's what I would be doing because you're not going to just stick me in a job. We heard today there's some pushback on this Jason Witten thing. A lot of people were talking about Jason Witten is going to be a part of the staff, but we were hearing today that that's not set in stone. And the reason that's probably coming down that way is because whoever they've been interviewing, they're probably poo-pooing that idea with Jerry and Steven. Like, we ain't even about that life. One thing I was going to mention to you today that I heard from Brian Broaddus, I believe, and give him credit if this was him, it just said that. He said that after the Green Bay game last year, that Steven wanted to fire McCarthy. I thought it was the other way around.
It wasn't Steven that said that. It was Sean that said that, and I didn't believe that.
And that was Broaddus that said that?
No, Sean? It wasn't. It was Sean.
So I always thought it was the other way around. I thought Jerry wanted to fire McCarthy last year, and Steven wanted to keep him.
What Sean said did not make sense. And if he said that, and if Sean said that, and then because Sean had it backwards, Sean is saying that McCarthy was Jerry's guy, and that Steven and that Schottenheimer is Steven's guy. That's what Sean is saying, that
Schottenheimer is Steven's guy.
Yeah. So Shotty is saying. So Sean is saying that since Jerry messed this up last year by retaining McCarthy, that Jerry is just saying that he's gonna give Steven what he wants, and he's gonna hire Shotty, which is backwards. He has that backwards. It really, Jerry wanted Dan Quinn, and I believe, like you said, that Steven wanted McCarthy, and that's why Jerry is on a lone wolf right now by himself, because Steven it didn't work out. What Steven was doing didn't work out. So
yeah, and Jerry wanted Dan Quinn as the head coach. He sees what Dan Quinn is doing. He sees what Dan Quinn is doing with Washington. So
I wonder, do they see that the first thing that the Washington did was they went crazy in free agency?
Go back to what I said earlier. They probably see it. They see a lot of things, but understand they're just not good at it. They see people building just custom built homes all around them, beautiful homes, just what they call it, the Rich and Famous. What's the show? The Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So
they see that all around them. They see the 49ers. They see the Ravens. They see the Chiefs. Chiefs, that's as high as you can get. But two things, they don't know how to do that. Okay? They just don't. And then number two, what they're trying to do, they're trying to distract Cowboy fans from even seeing that. They're saying, oh no, the Chiefs 2 years from now, they're going to just basically be a franchise that can't operate. These teams they're really writing a check that they can't cash. It's going to catch up with them. The calling card was the Rams, and I hate even talking about the Rams, because the Rams for Steven, that was always a dog ate my homework thing. So stop talking about the Rams. But let's look at the 49ers. Look at the Lions, the Chiefs. So understand that what those teams are doing, we have to face the facts that they don't really know how to do that. And that's what's coming out. It's all coming out in the end. That's what's happening there. Now, whoever they're interviewing for this job, that's what that person might be talking about too. That might end up costing you the job as well.
Yeah. So I had came up with an analogy today. I was thinking, I was just like, it's like Jerry is just like, okay, when you buying a new pair of shoes. Also, it's just like, Jerry and them, they have they have more than one business that they're running here. They're not just running the Cowboys football team. They have like 5 or 6. I'm sure they have 5, 6, or 7 businesses that they run. And so football is probably just football is probably number 4 out of the most important things that they got going on. They probably, in my opinion, they probably in meetings right now, and it ain't got nothing to do with the Cowboys. And so it's just like, when you buy a new pair of shoes, you got some person that's telling you want to get the new J's that came out. They're the best quality. They're gonna last for a long time. Nobody got these. You gonna cash the check wherever you going. You gonna impress when you get these. Those are the Ben Johnsons and the Aaron Glenns and everybody else that we've been naming. Or you can say, but Jerry is saying, man, I got so much other stuff I'm worried about. I got life, I got bills, I got all this kind of stuff that I'm worried about. I'm not trying to get no new J's. I'll just go get the Air Force Ones. They not the new J's, but they good enough for the ball. I can wear them to the dance. And what's gonna happen is that's who Schottenheimer is. Schottenheimer and Kellen Moore, they're the Air Force Ones. Yeah, they're gonna get you in the dough. They look nice for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and as soon as they get a crease, you gotta throw them away because they just like everybody else. They're no good, and that's what's happening here. Jerry is getting the Air Force Ones. He's not going all in and getting the Jordans. He doesn't want a shiny new thing. He doesn't want, because he's going to take the glitz and glamour off of him, I guess, because what else are we to believe? I mean, how can we make sense of this besides they don't know what they're doing? Okay. Well, if someone doesn't know what they're doing and you have a system or you have people around you that can help you with that, but you constantly don't want the help,
yeah, they don't have people that can help them.
Well, they do. They do. They have. All they have to do is look.
Well, no, Washington, but they're not looking.
I mean, it's there. Washington can help them.
They ain't even trying to look. So when you look at it, and I'm gonna pat my own self on the back. So this weekend, what we heard over and over and over on social media, tweets, we heard it on the networks. They started showing this graphic of the Cowboys being the only team that hasn't had a conference championship game in 29 years. I have been saying that for weeks and months and years. I've been tweeting about it. And one of the frustrations that we have is a lot of the legacy media, the people that cover the team on a daily basis, I still write today, I would be willing to pay somebody if they can find me an interview that Stephen or Jerry has done, where the interviewer said to Jerry, in the last 28 years, you're only one of 2 or 3 teams that has no NFC championship games. They're never asked about that fact. They never are. They're asked about all kinds of stuff. They get him on the air. They want to know if when he go to the fair, what he's eating. Does he like the corny dogs? Does he like the whatever they have? What he's doing on Thanksgiving? And then when you get down to the brass tacks, a lot of football questions are asked of Jerry and Stephen. They're never made to acknowledge that your franchise has not had a championship game in 29 years. Now they're the only team with that moniker, the only team.
Someone has to say that. It's going to be somebody like Clarence. Somebody that really don't.
I don't even think Clarence, well, I would say this. Clarence can probably ask that question now because he's not with the Star Telegram anymore. But there are a lot of other people that cover the team.
It's going to be somebody like Broadus.
And then the other thing is they will say, well, they don't really want to be that direct with them because of their press passes or whatever case may be. If you're just a freshman in journalism school, you could do an interview with them and you could turn that question around and ask it 10 different ways where it doesn't sound mean, but you're basically asking them the same question. Nobody does that either. But, we want to try to be positive and we talk about, having hope. We saw Michael Irvin today saying the only hope that he sees with this is hiring Dion. We need hope. He says the only hope we have is Dion. If Michael doesn't have hope, we in trouble.
And then,
But
also, why would they come out and say that if Dion was offered the job, he would take it? And then it's just like, well, how in the world would you, like I said, I'm patting myself on the back. What did I say earlier? I said, no, what it sounds like is Jerry just reached out to Dion to just talk about the job opening. It wasn't actually to hire him. It was actually just to talk about it, like, hey, who do you think are some good candidates out here? That type of
just
deal.
to talk, yeah.
And so
I don't personally think myself. I don't think Dion was ever leaving Colorado because he's recruiting. He's got a lot of kids that are committed to the school. Now, coaches do that all the time, but now we'll never say never. We could wake up tomorrow and Dion's a coach, and I told you it's really going to be interesting to see because both his sons are gone now. So we're going to really see if he's committed to college football because his sons are not there. So look, we don't know what's going to happen with this. Do I predict that he's going to be offered the job? I think he's going to stay at Colorado. I don't think he has any. Go ahead.
I want to. I whenever I know, however a journalist can figure out how to ask, I want them to ask the first thing I want them to ask at training camp or wherever. The first thing I want them to ask is, why didn't you? And you can, like I said, they can phrase this however they want to phrase it. Why didn't you all interview any of the top candidates for head coach, and why does all of your candidates no one else interviews? No one wants to interview Schottenheimer. No one wants to interview Will McClay. No one wants to interview Kellen Moore got some interviews, okay? But
Al Harris, Londa Wells.
Why come you didn't interview any of these people? And how come how come you didn't interview Belichick? How come you didn't reach out to Belichick? How come you didn't reach out to Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? How come you didn't do any of these things? I know the answer, but it's just like, how did you not do any of this? How does a whole coaching cycle go, and you don't interview none of the top candidates? None of them. You don't interview any of them, and then the candidates that you interview are like the bottom of literally the bottom of the barrel. Like if you look on the transaction counter, I looked at the transaction counter last night, the one that we be looking at when you can see who's interviewing. When you look on that list, because I was thinking about that too, I was like, this right here, this transaction counter is a way for you to see who's hot, who has a hot hand that people don't know about in the league. You know what I mean? Who's the coordinators that's getting these interviews from these other teams? How come on your list, like Schottenheimer isn't on anyone's list? How is that happening?
Well, and do you want better? You could say when coaches leave here, like Jason Garrett, he never got another job. Wade Phillips, he got a coordinator job. Chan Gailey never got another head coaching job. Who was their other coach? They don't. So I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. You have 29 years of, you don't want to say that they're incompetent, but you just have 29 years of, there's just, they're like a ship lost at sea that doesn't really know how to use a compass to find their way home. The other teams they're using a compass. They're using all the technology. They're using satellite videos. They're doing all of that. This team right here, it's just not important. So, at the end of the day, when you operate the way that they operate, you're seeing why they don't have an NFC championship game in 29 years. People need to face the fact that they're just not good at what they do. And at the end of the day, the rubber is going to meet the road. It's happening in warp speed. I'm hearing a lot of people say that, they've never seen it. People keep saying they've never seen it this bad, but that's what's happening. And So the only hope that you got is, and I've been saying this for years, and I've been telling you and y'all Uncle Eric this. Every now and then, you know, you're gonna just look up and something's gonna fall on your lap. You know, that broken clock is gonna be right twice a day. At some point, they're gonna look up and just hire a coach that ends up being a good coach and just ends up being what they need. And they're gonna look up and figure out a way to get good players in the draft on, you know, a lot of picks. And they've actually done it a couple of times. They've had some good players, good picks. And that 2016 team, I think was their best team. The 07 team, I think what got them in 07 and 2016. A lot of people talk about the 2014 team. That was the team with the Dez catch in Green Bay. I think if Dez had caught that ball, Green Bay was gonna come back and win that game. They were not gonna let Dallas win that game up there. But I think they've been lucky to get some good players, but they just never had the right coach. You know, Jason Garrett was not the coach to get you over the top. McCarthy, you know, he had a couple of good teams, went 12-5 3 years in a row, but you know, he's not the coach that he was. He just that coach that beat us a couple of times with the Packers. You know, we didn't get that. So
no, and we didn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback either.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. I would just say this: if you had to look at all of the options that are out there, you know, look, a lot of the coaches have been snapped up. So at this point, they probably just looking at, you know, who's left and, you know, what can we figure out just to kind of get a coach in place that kind of halfway knows what they're doing. And you know, Brian Schottenheimer, look, his dad was a legendary coach. His dad we have to go back and look at this. I think Marty Schottenheimer had 4 or 5 teams that went to the AFC Championship game, but they got beat by Elway a couple of times. Some of his teams might have lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship championship game. We got to go back and look, but you know, he comes from a good background of, you know, coach's son. So his genes are better than Kellen. Kellen just came from Boise State, and we hear a lot of people talking about Boise State. Boise State has never won anything. They're kind of like a gimmick, you know, team. Boise State is not one of. It's not like you're talking about like a Alabama or even Oregon. Nobody does from Boise State does anything. They've had a couple of good players come out of there, but so, you know, that's kind of what you're left with. So we're just gonna see what happens. It might end up being Kellen. You know, we don't really know at this point. So I think people are kind of 50-50. You're probably more in Kellen's camp, like Mark Holmes. So Mark Holmes and it was somebody else. Oh, Mark Holmes and Boss Cowboy. They do not want Kellen.
I mean, no, nobody wants Kellen, but if I had to choose between if I had to choose between Schottenheimer and Kellen Moore, I know what I'm getting with Kellen, and I know that I'm getting, you know, we had to
know what you're gonna get with Kellen offensively. You think?
Yeah,
yeah. But even Kellen, my criticism with Kellen, Brian Broaddus will say this quite often. His offense is just a collection of plays. So
okay.
You know, we have to just, but
that collection of plays with us average 32 points a game. And so,
yeah. But then when you got to look at the 49er games too, when he was the coordinator there, just like we did.
And so you got to change one thing. And that's and then one thing you got to change is when it comes to the playoffs games, you have to call better play. So you have to change one thing. Now, when you talk about Schottenheimer, we're talking about the 85th offense and the 31st and the 21st and the 30th and the 30th and the 29th and everything else over and over and over again for years straight. That's what we're talking about.
And then with Kellen,
how many things you got to change, but
and then with Kellen, you know, and they talked about it today on the fan Broaddus. You know, Broaddus just kept it a buck, and he just said that he wouldn't hire him because of the command of the team thing. That's just kind of a sticking point for a lot of people. You know, unfortunately it is. But you know, but Now look, when Sean McVay got hired, when LaFleur got hired, we saw O'Connell with the Vikings. You know, Kellen could end up being one of those guys. You just never know. You won't actually know till he becomes a head coach. Now, it's interesting too. You know, Eric Bieniemy was taken through he was dragged because he did 7, 8, 9 interviews and never got a job. Kellen is getting pretty close. Kellen has probably been on about 8 or 9 interviews. He hasn't got a job yet. So, you know, you gotta look at all of that. But Brian Schottenheimer, he hadn't been on no interviews.
He haven't. And Kellen finna get a ring. Well, everybody's debating on whether he gonna be.
I think Washington is gonna beat them.
Well,
I think
it's 50. It's 50-50.
It's 50-50, but I just think I think Washington is gonna beat them. They got lucky with the weather last week. Now I will say this: if you're Washington in this game right here, if you're thinking that you're gonna get any calls, you can forget it. It's not happening. The refs are gonna do everything they can to help the Eagles win that game, and then the same thing's gonna happen at Arrowhead. If you're thinking you're gonna get any calls, it's not happening. You're gonna have to. The Bills and the Washington team, they're gonna have to win the game, and I think Washington can. I think the Bills can too. Actually, I'm calling an upset on both games.
The Bills, and you think the Bills gonna win, and you think the Washington gonna win?
I do.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I think it's gonna be that too. I think Washington I think Washington got a good chance of winning, and I think the Bills gonna win. But
now, one concern I have about Washington is, you know, Dan Quinn occasionally his run defense kind of shows up where he has problems. So they gotta stop Saquon. That you know, I can't believe that the Rams were not better prepared, but the weather probably had a lot to do with it. But if you can just stop Saquon, they can easily be defeated. So we've been on almost 45 minutes.
Yeah, we can go ahead and wrap up. But also, people not understanding too that they got the best offensive line in the league.
The Eagles?
Yeah,
they do. But the Redskins have a good defensive line. They got good linebackers. You know, they got a good team. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Jaden Daniels, if he's running away from Carter and those defensive tackles, they're not going to be effective. He's not going to just stand there and just, you know, so he's going to be on the move. They're going to have to chase him down. It's going to be an interesting game to watch. So, but we can go ahead and wrap. Just kind of probably be listening to some other content creators and see what they're doing.
So, let's go check them out. And I feel like make sure you, if you made it with us this long, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell button. And right now we're live on Facebook and we're live on YouTube. So make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.